can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Chris Longo. I am a clinical pharmacist. I have my degree is a Doctor of Pharmacy degree. I specialize in hospice management of hospice patients on palliative care. We do a lot of pain management and drug therapy management and drug utilization reviews on patients, and just basically try to make their last days of life as most comfortable as possible for them and their family members.
Okay. First, I'm going to ask you my overall research topic. Do you believe that a gluten and casein-free diet really helps to improve the symptoms of an autistic child?
Do I believe in it? If it works for the person and it helps improve their symptoms of the disorder, then yes. As far as concrete evidence associated with that, I'd have to say no. There's not enough clinical studies out there to indicate to me that this is something that does work and improve the symptoms of autism. I think there needs to be much more research done in this area of study to get a definitive answer on whether this works or not. But it just seems like nowadays, more and more people, especially with a disorder like autism, are looking to alternate forms of medicine to treat the symptoms of the disease and improve the child's functioning status.
What are some alternative medicines that people use?
Right now, one of the main things are the behavioral therapy and the cognitive therapy. Just managing with the child, helping them improve their daily functions. Another important thing is training the parents on how to treat the child properly, how to understand the disease of autism, and help the child get through day-to-day life. But in that instance, that has been proven to work using that behavioral therapy, working with the child and teaching them how to cope day-to-day, how to use their surroundings and identify on things properly. And that does work. There is a lot of evidence associated with that in treating autism.
So why do you think that parents thrive over this diet, such as like Jenny McCarthy? Like she showed in a book that it's proven to work on her autistic child, and he hasn't been able to get rid of autism, but she's been able to manage his autism
it's
better.
Something new. Anything new, anything on the cutting edge of technology, if you will, people are going to try, especially with something like autism, because we don't really have much as far as medication-wise right now to currently treat it. Absolutely, there's nothing in the medicinal world to treat autism. So anything that they can do that is new and it will help improve the symptoms of it slightly. Different effects on the body through our neurotransmitters in our brain. That's one of the proposed mechanisms of autism disease is something, not quite our neurons firing the correct way, such as a quote unquote normal person without the disease would work. We don't know enough yet. Researchers do not know enough yet to autism. We're learning a lot more as the years go on compared to 10 years ago, but there's just no. It's a very tough disease state to get a hold of right now. So we're learning more each day, and maybe hopefully down the road we can develop something that will help children with autism.
What type of vitamins or nutrients do these children lack if they're not having gluten and casein in their diet?
Well, you start out with a casein. Your dairy products, our common thing that we think of when we're growing up is our calcium intake. We need calcium to build bones. So when children that are developing aren't getting this calcium, their skeletal system is not going to be developed to its fullest degree. So that's a big issue. As far as the gluten products, the wheats and those, certain vitamins and minerals, the gluten stuff, the wheats are supposed to be good for your cholesterol, your good cholesterol and issues like that. Children don't really have that many problems with cholesterol as adults do. But I think your main thing is anytime you restrict a child to a certain diet, you're going to have a lack of certain vitamins that they need to develop in it. But you got to make sure you supplement with those. So as long as they're supplementing with the correct vitamins and minerals, it won't be a problem.
What's if parents don't realize that they're lacking deficiency in these products, what could happen to an autistic child if
Well,
they don't have gluten and casein in their diet and they're not alternating it with supplements?
I mean, it's tough because you won't see that until years down the road. If a child's what's that? I mean, if they're smaller than normal compared to the rest of the population in their age group, are their cognitive development, which is the way their behavior, their thought process. Can you compare that with the norm for the kids in their age group? So that's the only way to tell. You have to. That's how they do it in the pediatric world. Is they compare it to the population of kids their age and see where they lie in the tables. Are they developing at a normal speed? Are they ahead of development? Are they is their development retarded in a sense? Are they not developing the way they should be? That's how we can figure that out. And like I said before, we don't know too much yet to the link with these diets and not giving these to the children to help them with their autism. So it's one of those things where celiac disease is an intolerance to gluten products as well. So what happens with celiac disease is we can't break down those molecules. Now, when we can't break down those molecules, when we consume foods with those molecules in them, it can extremely upset our digestive tract, cause ulcers and
Vomiting.
Absolutely, vomiting is one of the problems there because we can't tolerate that molecule. That molecule actually, if you want to think of it in a sense where our body attacks itself, it's kind of like an autoimmune disease where our body looks at that molecule as a foreign invader. So anytime we have something foreign come into our body, we create an immune response, and our body tries to get that molecule out of our body. So when we ingest those, people with the celiac disease or that intolerance, their body attacks that, causes a huge inflammation in the area, pain, very, very, very painful, digestive upset, vomiting, diarrhea. It's just it's a complex disorder that is a very troublesome disease state in people with uncontrolled celiac disease.
I first learned this disease through researching this topic. Why is it so common in autistic individuals?
I mean, why is it common? Maybe there is a link. I don't know for sure, and I don't think anyone does. I mean, that's why it's being researched right now. So I couldn't really give you a definite answer on that. But it's a very interesting correlation that they're looking at, and then that's why they're looking at it, because they think that there may be a correlation there.
And that's not just with children, with young adolescents.
I mean, I haven't seen too much about that issue, but I mean, if you eat a lot of, let's say, foods with gluten in it, for example, in large quantities, you're consuming an extremely large amount of carbohydrates. With carbohydrates, when they're not broken down properly, turn into fat, so that can lead to obesity. The casein issues is the dairy. Again, there's a lot of fat in those products as well. So I think if you can consume those two products, I mean, the gluten itself and the casein, if you can tolerate it, there's not an issue in consuming it. However, if you can't tolerate it, then of course there's an issue in consuming it.
When a child first starts this diet, is it better to remove gluten and casein at the same time or one at a time?
Well, maybe it's probably a better idea to do one at a time to see, anytime you change a diet in a child, you want to start out really slow, and then you don't want to take away two things right at once fast. The child needs to adjust to it, and their body needs to adjust to it. So it's probably a good idea to do one at a time and see how the child reacts to that.
Oh, okay. If a child's on this diet, is it okay to allow occasional pauses from the diet?
As far as
yes,
holidays are concerned,
diet holidays.
I mean, you can do it, but if the child has an intolerance to these things and you reintroduce them, then they're going to have problems with it again. To try this diet and then go on a quote-unquote holiday from it and reintroduce these products in the child's diet and see if the child's symptoms get worse, that's what clinical studies are for. That's what they do in those studies, to see if there is that link to these molecules in the diet and improving symptoms of autism.
So, from your own experience, I know you said that you worked in retail previously and that you're at a pharmaceutical company now. Have you had any past experiences with individuals with autism and like the possible medications that they do buy, at like a CVS, or have you ever came in contact with anybody?
The most common classes of medications where children are on with autism would be your your ADHD, which is your attention deficit hyperactivity disorder medications. These children lack focus and ability. So they're generally on a slew of medications in that sense. I've even seen children on antidepressants, which they use. So a child that's very, very hyperactive will be on the class, like the common ones that I'm sure everyone's familiar with is your Ritalin and your Adderall. They'll also add an antidepressant medication on there to help calm the child down even more. So those are the most common ones that you see that are being used more and more in the pediatric population. And for that disorder. But for autism, you treat the symptoms of it. There's nothing to treat the disease, so it depends. When the symptoms arise, that's when the doctor determines what they need to treat.
How do they treat autism spectrum other than, with medications, even though there's not a lot of medications?
Behavior modification is the number one thing you can do for the disorder.
And that's interesting that you said that.
Cognitive therapists, they work. That's been proven to work. That's been proven to improve the functioning of an autistic child greatly. And these cognitive therapists work with these children every single day on just overall. So I definitely think it's worth trying for these parents.
Do you know of any other types of diets that are known to be beneficial for kids or adults, or like this one specifically, gluten and casein? Do you know of any other diets?
No, just certain. We talked about celiac disease already. We talked about some like another gastrointestinal disorder, Crohn's disease. Certain foods irritate that. I know people that they can't eat peanuts or tomatoes because the seeds in tomatoes greatly inflame and irritate the digestive tract for patients. So it's an individual basis. You got to see which foods you can't tolerate and which foods you can. So that's the main thing when it comes to diets, and anyone's going to benefit off a healthier diet.
I know you're not a dietitian, but do you think that gluten and casein is often hidden in foods or like food products?
I think it's in pretty much basically all the foods we eat. I don't necessarily think most food manufacturers have to
hide it.
List them in their ingredients if they're in real small amounts. But I would make a pretty good guess that they're in most foods that we consume.
Do they put it in do they put it on the label usually, or?
They should. It depends on what quantities of it are in the food. If they're a very high quantity, they should put it in there. But if it's just trace amounts, I don't believe they're required to list those ingredients. But you should check every nutrition label to see an ingredient label to see what's in the foods. But most foods that are gluten free, it'll be right on the front cover saying, the big X over the gluten free food.
So if a parent came up to you when you were at work and they said, I heard of this gluten and casein diet and I was hoping to try it on, my child, do you think that I should? Or what would you say if a parent
I wouldn't recommend against it. I would, obviously I don't, I'm not an expert on it. I don't know too much about it. But I don't think it could hurt the child as long as the parents still giving the child their required minerals and minerals and vitamins, and they should definitely consult with the pediatrician and go for regular checkups as well to make sure the child is developing properly. So I wouldn't recommend against it. I would just educate the parent on the proper nutrition, and make sure they get their essential food groups in as well.
So do you have anything else to say about the link between this diet and autism?
It's a very interesting link, but like I said before, it's something that we need to do much more research on. But it's a start.
Just like the link between vaccination and...
Correct. There's no concrete evidence on that either. It's just another option, another avenue that we're looking upon, exploring, to see if there is a link. And that's what we do in medicine. Anytime a coincidence comes up, we have to study it to see if there is a concrete link in the treatment or something. But we need to do much more research and get a better understanding of it.
Okay.
And it's going to take time.
All right, thank you for your time.